Can you talk a little bit about who your role models were coming up in wrestling?
For me, it's a little hard. Like I said, I was so oblivious to the sport of wrestling. Like I didn't know anything about it, what was happening, who was involved. I just knew that it was something that I wasn't initially very good at, but I wanted to be. So I kind of stuck with it. But as I started to progress through the sport, one of the people for me was Iris Smith. Looking up to her, seeing like her accomplishments on making multiple world teams, and then just like her longevity in the sport. Like she was always someone who inspired me.
So yeah, this is kind of a strange question for all of us because a lot of us were part of the first, the first Olympic teams, first medalists. But I think Katie said first junior team for we almost felt like we didn't have anybody, and if we did, we definitely didn't know them until later. So when I first started, I much like Toccara, much like Katie, I didn't really know anything about wrestling. I didn't even know women wrestle. But as I went through the sport and went to these women's tournaments and went to these opens and saw Toccara and saw Katie, I was like, whoa, there's a whole nother level here that I did not know this existed. So really for me, we're the same age, but it was them who were the leaders, who were making teams, who were winning medals. And by them, I mean Toccara, Katie, and then there's Trisha Saunders. I've soon just really opened the door. Iris was really big for me too. Iris really took me under her wing when I started coming out to the training centers and helping me out. But it's a strange phenomenon because my teammates were the women that I looked up to because you're looking at the first. We're sitting here right now.
Yeah, when read that question, I was like, oh, so it was the men whose posters were in my wrestling room in high school, right? That was the only option. Um, I do remember it was a really big deal the very first year, the very first month that Trish Saunders got put on the cover of the magazine for USA Wrestling's magazine. And like Sarah McMahon and I took that cover and hung it up in our room in college because it was like, finally, so like Trish, we'd all heard of her, but again, it was like not until a couple of years into wrestling. Um, and so, yeah, is an interesting like question. So I can name some males, but really the females, it was like they were the ones who like were beating me up in practices eventually. Once you made it to some national team stuff, they were the ones that we were training with. So like they're idols, but also training partners. So like, yeah, it's an interesting question for our age group.